Did something really bad happen to Tom and Jackie Hawks? Journalist and author Caitlin Rother covers the story.
They were down-to-earth people, and Jackie was a housewife, and Tom always worked, but he was a probation officer, and they saved and they invested well in property, so they made some money, but they weren't rich, so they didn't have that affectation the way that a lot of people in Newport do. And eventually they duct tape them and blindfold them and put them together back to back. And they basically tell them that they have to sign these power of attorney agreements, and as long as they do that and they cooperate, they can live. The anchor went down and they went over the side, and the anchor pulled them down with the weight.
And honestly, it was so surprising. He had such a high voice. He seemed so timid and so non-threatening that it was almost like a teenage girl that I was talking to. And if you didn't know anything about him, you wouldn't think he would hurt you either.
Yeah.
How did that factor into this case?
Well, he was basically able to victimize pretty much everyone that he met to get them to participate in his schemes, either knowingly or unknowingly, by offering them millions of dollars that he had no way of providing, offering them, appealing to their greed, essentially, as well.
He had devised this crazy, crazy scheme. He went home back to his house and independently called 911 to report that Margot was trying to kill him.
His home surrounded, Gene refused to come out, and he turned up the drama on his 911 call.
As part of this crazy, elaborate scheme, he had come up with this idea that he had been an undercover for so long that his brain had split. His psyche had developed this new person named Evil Ed, who had come up with this crazy plan to kill Margot.
Hi, I'm Paula Zahn.
Several times that Patricia Cornwell came over for dinner at Margot's house, Patricia Cornwell would hold Margot's hand, and then once they got back to Patricia's room, they would hug. And the third time, they hugged, and then Margot kissed Patricia. He was basically saying that because he had been in undercover work for so long, and all the stress and strain of the divorce and going to prison and all that stuff, his brain just split.
To Caitlin Rother, true crime author, working on the book regarding this case, who attended the murder trial every day. Caitlin, weigh in.
Good evening, Nancy. Thanks for having me on. Kevin's son, Bill's son, Kevin, wasn't even supposed to be home that night, and he heard these shots from downstairs and tried to come down as fast as he could, but with a brain injury, it took him almost a full minute. And imagine his shock to see his father lying on the floor with blood and bullets and his glasses lying there. And even more tragic, he tried to call 911, and he did, and the dispatcher could not understand what he was saying. It was heartbreaking.
Caitlin, what do you think was the single most damning evidence against the girlfriend, Nanette Johnson, a.k.a. Nanette Packard? She's got quite a list of AKAs. But what's the most damning evidence? She did not pull the trigger, and the boyfriend, the former NFLer, did not testify against her, did he?
No, but she was a manipulator of men, and she had a pattern of lying and cheating and stealing. And even though her defense attorney said, you can't convict her for being a thief, everything that she did proved in court, according to this jury, that she had aided and abetted and manipulated Naposki into killing this man.
This book are riveting. It's Poisoned Love. And you also have another book coming out shortly. Tell us about this one.
This is Naked Addiction. You can see it.
Yeah.
I worked for 17 years to get this published. It's a novel. It's set in La Jolla and PB, and it's also about sex, drugs, and murder. But people who live around here would enjoy, visiting their favorite places in the book. There's Harry's Coffee Shop, and the Hang Glider Port, and Wind and Sea, my favorite place to watch the sunset. So it's about a detective who finds a dead body in an alley of this beautiful girl, and there's beautiful girls missing. And being found dead. Beauty school students.
Ah, okay, intriguing. And you've got some book signings coming up, too, so we want to get some information out on your book signings.
This is News 8 at 11. It's one of the most brutal murder cases in Southern California history. A couple tied to an anchor and thrown off their yacht into the ocean. Now a former Union Tribune reporter has written a book with an inside look at the case.
This is the quintessential story of good versus evil. You've got a law enforcement family versus a law-breaking family. Skyler came up with this idea, no body, no crime. Obviously, greed was the main factor, and he wanted to keep his wife happy. They lived in this cramped studio. She was pregnant with their second child.
Rother is a former Union Tribune reporter. Her latest book, Dead Reckoning, uncovers new details of the murders at sea, including the final moments on the yacht when Tom and Jackie Hawks were being bound and gagged.
All Tom could do was reach over with his hand. Even though he was handcuffed, he reached over and stroked Jackie's hand. That's all he could do.
Rother currently is working on a book about serial killer John Gardner.
The title of the book, at least for now, is The Makings of a Monster.
With a degree in psychology, Rother says her book on Gardner will take an inside look at his family background and what may have led to the murders of teenagers Amber Dubois and Chelsea King.
Rather than being so angry and turning a blind eye to the factors that contribute to situations like this, why not try to be proactive and see if there's anything that we can change so that these things don't keep happening?
Let me just jump a little bit ahead. John Latham's wife, Jackie Peterson's mother, was then unable to care for Jackie, right?
Right. She and her 3 brothers were placed in an orphanage, and so Jackie Peterson, I didn't actually see this, but I read reports that Jackie Peterson brought this up during the death penalty phase of Scott Peterson's trial, that her family had already, gone through this tragedy of losing their father to murder, and then they were raised in an orphanage, and, she had these subsequent health problems, and, please spare Scott's life and our family another tragedy.
The guy she had the affair with, was he ever under scrutiny?
He was under scrutiny. He was the unindicted, uncharged co-conspirator, according to the prosecution, but although he's technically still under investigation, he's never been charged and therefore could not be extradited from Australia, where he's living now. My understanding is he's not been able to find a job in his forensic toxicology field, that his life has really been devastated by all of this, too, even though, he's never been officially punished. His attorneys say, yes, he has been. He's living under punishment.
So can we expect a made-for-TV movie on this?
I hope so.
Yeah, the book again. It's called
Poisoned Love.
Poisoned Love. Story with all the great elements of a good story. What? Love, conflict, betrayal,
drugs, sex, murder.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thanks, Caitlin.
Thank you.